Well, everyone, today everybody's very quiet. So we are now Saturday, 28th, yeah, 28th of October. And we are about to start another study. So before we start, let's do a quick prayer. Master Jesus, once again, we are here, ready to start another study of the Medium's book, in our understanding, that powerful tool that will help us out in the real life to understand ourselves and to help others. Be with us through this study, giving us the intuition, the perception required to understand what Kardec brought to us, and give us the strength to be aligned with those teachings. So be it. So, let me share the book with you all. Let me just organize my screen here. All right then. So here we are. We are talking about the chapter that is about development of mediums. I think that's something very, very nice, and especially at this particular moment where we see a lot of endeavors from the spiritual world to give us this strength and to push us in this direction. We have groups a bit everywhere starting their activities, and that give us the confidence we need to know that we are not that wrong. All right. So, item 213. The writing is something quite legible, with the words and letters perfectly salient. But with certain mediums, the writing is difficult to decipher by anybody other than the person who has written it, making it necessary to become accustomed to it. We have scenarios where the medium is used to write with a perfect letter, perfectly understandable letter, and when under the trance, mediumistic trance, the letter is very hard to be understood. We have mediums that when they are writing on the day-to-day, on their activities, it's very hard to understand already, right? Sometimes we have a very hard time to understand what they are writing. Only themselves can understand. And when they are under the effect of the mediumistic trance, they are no different. There are situations where even a most familiarized indoctrinator needs to ask for the medium, please translate that to me, because I simply cannot. And as always, as we continue working with the medium, we start to be acquainted with the way he writes and becomes a bit easier. But even like that, quite often we need the assistance of the medium to transcribe what he has received and write, okay? Quite often, the writing consists of large strokes. Spirits are not concerning with the saving paper. Funny what he mentions here, because in the practice, we see sometimes you have a couple of words in a page and an A4 page. Doesn't mean that there is a nice spirit, is a bad spirit. No, not at all. Could be a lot of things. Whenever a word is or sentence is hard to read, we ask the spirit to please write it again, which is usually, it usually does willingly. You have to remember that at that time, Kardec was asking questions to the spirit, and then he was expecting to have a conversation like that. So if he could not understand what was the answer, was a broken conversation. There was not a dialogue. So that's why he was asking the spirit to write again. Nowadays, what we do, we don't do that, right? We have the message is scrutinized, interpreted by the indoctrinators, and then sometimes we even study a bit about the message, or we talk about the message even after the meeting when it's required. Whenever the writing is habitually illegible, even to the medium, he or she can nearly always render it clearer with frequent and sustained practice, performed with much willpower, and by others beseeching the spirit to be more accurate. Often, some spirits adopt conventional marks, which they use during habitual meetings. For example, to show that it finds a question disagreeable, and that it does not wish to respond. It will draw a long stroke or order such an indication. The spirit is no different than us, right? Sometimes we are in a conversation where we don't want to continue that conversation, or we are not pleased with that conversation, and we say so, right? The spirit is the same. The spirit may come to a conclusion that this conversation is useless, or he's not happy with what is the subject of conversation, and he will also say so. When the spirit reaches the end of what is wanted to say, or no longer wants to respond, the medium's hand becomes still, and no matter what his or her ability or willpower may be, not another word will be obtained. If the spirit doesn't want to talk, if he does not want to write, that's it, right? On the other hand, when the spirit has not yet finished, the pencil continues without the hand being able to stop it. If the spirit wants to say something spontaneously, the hand compulsively picks up the pencil and begins to write without being able to oppose it. Moreover, the medium almost always feels something that indicates whether there has only been a pause in the communication, or whether the spirit has indeed finished. And it is rare that the medium does not sense the spirit's departure. As the medium becomes accustomed to the work, to the spirits, he will start to perceive the proximity of the spirit when the time is there to work with the spirit, okay? So that's something that will come naturally. These are the most important explanations we have to give in addressing psychographic phenomena development, which practice experience will bring certain details to light which would not be worthwhile to discuss at present. in general. Principles will clarify how to approach them. If people would only experiment, more mediums would appear than was thought possible. I heard of recently a comment from a medium saying that he felt uncomfortable to have written message in a virtual meeting because the spirit would stay there or whatever. The mechanism of a communication, written or verbal, is exactly the same. If there was a risk of the spirit remaining in his home because he was writing in a piece of paper, that would be exactly the same risk if he was talking through, if he was doing a cacophony. There is no difference. And by the way, through a virtual mediumship meeting, this is not a risk. Through a mediumship meeting, doesn't matter if it's virtual or presential, there is a risk if the medium is irresponsible. I'll say that again. During the virtual or presential meeting, there is a risk if the medium is irresponsible. Guys, just give me a minute. I forgot to switch off my WhatsApp here on the computer and it's banging. Let me just stop it. That's it. So, item 200. Guys, feel free to stop me anytime with any questions if you feel you have to. Okay. 214. Everything we have stated so far applies to mechanical writing, which is the faculty that all mediums seek with good reason to develop. I will highlight that here, mechanical writing. Nowadays, it's very difficult to see a mechanical writing step. Nowadays, the great majority of mediums, they are conscious of the communication. It doesn't mean they are interfering in the communication, but they are not, let's say, receiving anything without knowing anything that's going on. Nowadays, the great majority of mediums are not mechanical, which is the faculty that all mediums seek with good reason to develop. Yet, a purely mechanical function is very rare, and quite frequently intuition is coupled with it to some degree. Even at Kardec's time, he is mentioned here, was already rare, right? Imagine nowadays. When mediums are aware of what, but there's one thing, sometimes the medium does not understand the steps of this communication, how the communication is happening. And then the medium thinks is mechanical. I saw that myself, where the medium truly believed was mechanical and was not. That's why it's very important to study. When mediums are aware of what they are writing, they are naturally led to doubt their ability. This is one of the massive stones for the mediumship. It's very common as well that mediums doubt that they are mediums to start with. And when they start to practice, they doubt that whatever is coming through them is really from the spirits or not. And after a period of time, he will doubt about the quality of what he is producing. So doubt is something that's very present through the mediumship career, if I can say like that. Not knowing if the writing is their own or if it is from a spirit. And quite often, the medium decides to decipher himself if it's from the spirit or not. I would encourage the medium to pass the communication to an experienced endocrinator. So this one can evaluate over a period of time. Also, make an evaluation in a single event, I would not recommend. It's better to create like a dossier, if you like, collect a sequence of messages, and through the process, continue the evaluation. They should not be overly concerned about it, however, and should proceed in spite of their doubt. We had situations where beginners, they decide to stop because they did not believe, they had doubts. Let me ask you one thing. When you were born, did you know how to read and write? Of course not. When you start to read and write, have you spoken a perfect English, or you written a perfect English? I doubt very much. I still don't until today. So everything when we are learning is like that. Everything we are learning. And we learn in different paces. There are people that learn how to walk when they are 4 years old. Nowadays, kids, they start to walk with a couple of months almost. There are people that will take a bit longer to walk, and doesn't matter. Everybody has a different pace to learn the process. But what is important is to have a proper orientation, a safe environment where this learning curve will be achieved safely. There's a lot of people that say a lot of things that are not correct. There are a lot of people that start to develop their own thoughts and then start to consider what they think as the right way to do or the right thing. And this is also a risk. That's why it's very, I will always say that, it's very important to use safe references. What is a safe reference for the Spiritism? Allan Kardec. In our case, when we're talking about mediums, it's the Medium's book, right? There's a lot of mediumship everywhere. There's a lot of mediumship phenomena everywhere. And they may be misinterpreted. And here, as a Spiritist environment, we follow Kardec because we believe that is the safest method, or is the safest basis for what we do. By careful self-observation, they will easily recognize in the writings many matters that do not pertain to themselves, or which are even contrary to their own thoughts. Ample proof that they did not originate in their own mind. If they will continue, their doubt would dissipate with experience. This is a massive point. With experience. We don't buy experience on Tesco. And if you do so, be aware. The product inside the box may not be what you are expecting. Experience, we take as it comes, with effort, with time, with responsibility, with commitment. That's the only way I know to get experience. If certain mediums are unable to be exclusively mechanical, all attempts to obtain this result will be futile. But why I want to be mechanical? Well, why is that? What is the reason behind that? But they would be mistaken to suppose that they had been deprived altogether. And that's one thing that happens as well when we are beginners, right? I want to see a clairvoyant. I want to write a book. I want to write beautiful messages. I want to see the spirits. I want to hear the spirits. I want to paint beautiful drawings. Oh, Well, what's the point? I think we are mistaken. A mediumship is for one purpose, and the purpose is to help others to perform charity. So it doesn't matter if your mediumship is only one thing, or if you have only one tendency at this particular moment in time. You have to use the abilities you've been given to do what a medium should do, not being asking for or expecting to be something. And on the internet, there is a massive opportunity to buy whatever you want, because people will sell you whatever you want. And there are people that are selling, making money, of course, how to open your third eye, how to do this, how to do that. Really? Be careful. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just telling you guys, be careful. Because after all, we are free to choose what we want, the path we want. If they are endowed only with intuitive mediumship, they should be content with it because it will render them a great service if they know how to take advantage of it instead of repudiating. When we decide to initiate our activities in a development mediumship group, we need to ask ourselves why I want that. Depending on your answer, I would say don't even start, because that may not be positive for you after all. But if your answers are correct, then fair enough, let's start. No rush, proper environment, safe environment, right? And then things will come. After futile attempts have been made for quite some time, if there is no indication of involuntary movements, or if there are only movements that are too weak to produce results, one should not hesitate to write the first thoughts that comes to mind, without being concerned as to whether it is one's own or another's. Experience will teach how to make the distinction. Besides, the mechanical movement will often develop on later. When we start to prepare to help new mediums to start the practice, I never had to tell them to just move your hands if you feel like your hands move by herself alone. Because it doesn't matter if it's mechanical or not mechanical. What is important is the exercise and the product that will come after this exercise, the results. And as I said earlier today, when we start to write, we write few words, broken language, sometimes meaningless. And then one day we start to write speeches and things like that. Same thing happens with mediumship. We have stated above that there are cases in which it does not matter if a thought comes from a medium or from a spirit. This is especially true when purely intuitive or inspired mediums are writing a work involving their own imagination. So that's also a possibility. In such a case, it matters little whether or not a thought has been suggested to them. If worthwhile ideas occur to them, they should thank their good spirit, who will then suggest more ideas to them. This is how poets, philosophers, and scientists are inspired. This here kind of suggesting, mentioning animism. And this is one of the words that, because it's not well comprehended, created a lot of problems in the mediumship environment. Hi, Osoli.
So, morning, everybody. Good morning, Guilherme. Sorry, I'm a little bit later. I would like about this. I have two questions. I try alone, not call spirits, not that, but to try write something, some letter, write something. This is a kind of training alone without that, but I know inside me, I am training and discover if I have psychography. But this is another question. Is about I think it's you answered some weeks ago with when we this training is only in the spirit center or now people training, so not alone, and so I would like to know if it is possible alone or must it be with another people they can about then spirit scan then the spiritual course start book.
Would be a mistake from my part if I say to anyone that you can do something or you cannot do something. I'm not here to tell you that you can or you cannot. I'm here to tell you what is safer, what is better for the development. I would recommend to develop a mediumship activity, psychography, psychophony, doesn't matter, in a safe environment. What is a safe environment? A mediumship meeting, if well coordinated, is a safe environment. So that would be my recommendation. But let's assume that I don't have access to one mediumship meeting because I'm living in the middle of nowhere, because I am not well accepted in a group or whatever. Should I not do? There are many variables that need to be taken into consideration. Which is the spirit who's trying to communicate through you? Which is the reason you're trying to do this exercise by yourself? What you're trying to attain, achieve with this exercise? Would I recommend to do alone at home? I'd rather say no. But I cannot say not to, because that I know is not possible to say to someone not to do. But if we are truly interested in develop the mediumship, written, spoken, whatever, to help others, it's better to seek for assistance. If for any reason you are alone by yourself in your home and something happens, who are you going to call for assistance when you are under influence? No one. You are on your own. There are cases we have people like Chico, like Divaldo, or other icons in the Spiritism. They had a massive support on the spiritual world. That is another thing. We should not use assumptions as the common rule. So my recommendation will be to start to develop your mediumship in a mediumship meeting. Safe environment and well coordinated. Mm-hmm. When we are in the mediumship meeting, when we are waiting our turn to give the voice to the spirits, we can also have a piece of paper beside us and try to make some scribbles.
Yeah, so now I know I have. I never no. I can't say. I can't say I have because it just happens, and I told that I think I said it here. I told you here about wonderful poesy, music. So, but it's not. I training. Never. Only it's happened sometimes. It's not sometimes, and I have this, and I told it here too. At the mediumship clarividence, clairvoyant. So that I go and I can go when I sleep, and I can go when I do something here. And suddenly happens things. I'm not crazy, please, but it happens things, and I describe this with the tails too, and the another is when I see, this is I describe it. I don't have a control because it's not a train. It's not. It happens, and it happens. I see one spirit.
Okay, let me.
What I see is not here. Oh, this. So it's happened 1-2 times only.
Okay.
I live here is 20 years.
Let me jump into what you just said. I don't have control. It means that I need to study more. It means that I need to practice in a safe environment. When we have a proper support, then we start to be in control. And very often, mediums in the beginning, it's very natural that they do not have the control. This is part of it. That's why they are learning the process. Okay? So let me go on a little bit more. Let us now suppose that the medium's faculty has been completely developed, that they write easily and are what we might call fully developed mediums. I would like to highlight to you guys, in my personal opinion, there's no such a thing as a fully developed mediums. It will create a false interpretation that we are ready, we are perfect, and we are not. In my interpretation, we are always learning, and we always have the possibility to improve our characteristics, our mediumistic characteristics. It would be a big mistake on their part to regard themselves as being no longer in need of further instructions. And that's what Kardec is saying. Since they will have merely overcome the physical resistance. It is now that the true difficulties begin, and that now, more than ever, they will need the advice of prudence and experience if they do not want to fall into thousands of traps that will be awaiting from them. I'll give you just one example here. Chico Xavier, he was writing for 30 years, books, letters, whatever, 30 years. And his benefactor, after this period of time, told him, now you can throw everything on the rubbish and we'll start to work. So he was practicing for 30 years, and none of those information received, we don't know what was there. Could be right, could be wrong, could be signed by anyone, doesn't matter. His benefactor clearly said, now you get all of this, throw in the bin, and then we'll start to work. And that's something very common when we are enthusiastic about mediumship. We want to do everything quickly. We want to be ready quickly. But it's not like that. We need to have, how can I say that? We need to have the certainty that things may not be quick as we would like to, right? So we need to be attentive, not to fall into traps. If they want to fly blind on their own wings, it will not be long before they are deceived by lying spirits who will try to exploit them, presumptionists. I think it also answered also the question a few minutes ago. Once the faculty has been developed, it is essential that mediums do not abuse it. The satisfaction that some beginners derive from its elicits an enthusiasm that needs to be controlled. Elicits an enthusiasm that needs to be controlled. They must bear in mind that it has been given to them for good use and not to satisfy curiosity, vain curiosity. We are all human beings, right? Just bear with me a minute. I'm going to switch the light on here. Start to get dark here. We are human beings. We are curious by nature. That's why we have everything we have nowadays. Everything starts with curiosity, right? But we need to be careful with curiosity too. Sometimes the curiosity that's not well orientated may create harm to ourselves and to others, right? So we need to be careful with that. Thus, it is essential that they only utilize it at appropriate times and not at every instant. Spirits are not constantly at their orders, and they run the risk of they run the risk of being deceived by pranksters. This is very important. We believe, now a lot of people believe, that my benefactor is always beside me. He's always available to me. He has nothing else to do in his life other than to be beside me. And that's not like that, right? That's really not like that. Hi, Osoli.
Sorry, Artem, that I had a question to you. We know, I think everybody here studied and know about them five works of Spiritus works. And I think curiosity, I think is order. I think it's people, they may be very, very young, no study, never have seen or been heard about then spiritus, but we know we can. We have the basic knowledge about, and I did ask you about this mistake that happens to you. Would like works better, works. I think it to try. What I mean, where I would say is, I know when there happens something with me, I have a feeling that because the spirits, they don't have somebody there, even there is even their moment, somebody better, a better medium. They use me, and it happens. Happens, but not here, not alone, but it happens. So I am not so very worried. I'm not worried about, because they know when they will use. But when they said here, spirits are not constantly their orders, and they run the risk of being deceived by pranksters. Of course, only now I want to prove this. I will prove it. Oh, I will do. This is wrong, total wrong, because it's like a prayer. We must have devotion. I think it's for me it's very very serious. Why I would like to know better, to know more, no more.
Okay.
I don't know it. I could understood. I can't talk today. I don't know why. I try, but
Okay.
I mean my English is bad and another thing.
Okay.
It is
That's
worry
okay.
and another thing.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. To avoid such impropriety, it is advisable to set certain days and hours aside for practicing mediumship, so that one may be more concentrated, and so that the spirits who wants to communicate, knowing about it in advance, will also be more disposed to be present. So when we do engage ourselves in a mediumship meeting, we need to take some precautions, and one of them is the organizations, the seriousness of the organization. So that's why the meeting always happen on the same place, on the same time, on the same day of the week, right? And there is a routine, there is a frequency. I'm coming today, I'm not coming tomorrow, I'm coming today, I'm coming 2 weeks time, 3 weeks time. Don't do that. Don't do that. The consequences may not be what you are expecting. We need to be responsible. Mediumship is to be dealt with responsibility. And our commitment is key to a proper success of the mediumship. If in spite of our attempts, mediumship does not surface in some form, then it is best to give up on it. As it would be singer, as would a singer be singing, would give up. Sorry, as a would-be singer would give up after discovering he or she had no voice after all. Yeah. In the same way that someone does not understand a foreign language, resorts to an interpreter, the person will have to resort to another medium. But even if there is no medium available, we should not deem ourselves to be without the assistance of spirits. Mediumship is only the means for the spirits to communicate, but it is not the sole means of attraction. Let's talk a bit about attraction here. 2 things, right? First of all, no mediums available. I'll tell a tale that has happened in one spirit center that I'm involved with. I'm part of it. There was a time that there was no mediums coming to the mediumship meeting, to the point that the people responsible for that group, they thought about stopping having mediumship meetings, because mediumship meetings without medium, they thought that was useless. A week or 2 later, after they discussed that, a medium was available and came to the meeting. And through this medium, the spirits asked those 2 people that were responsible for that group at the time, who you think you are? You have no right to stop this meeting. You have no knowledge about the consequences of doing so. And that was it. Today, this spirit center has something like what? 45 mediums, maybe? I don't even know how many anymore, because we have so many. But at the time, they were thinking about stop the mediumship meeting. And now let me talk about attraction. If I'm thinking about someone, incarnated or discarnated, I'm attracting. And sometimes I'm attracting not only the person himself or herself, I'm also attracting the spirits who are with them. So do not ignore the power of our thoughts. Do not ignore the power of attraction. That's why after any mediumship meeting, when the meeting is over, we don't talk about that anymore. We don't think about that anymore. Because if we do so, we are doing what? We are attracting sometimes what we don't want. Those who have dedicated their affection to us are with us, whether or not we are mediums. A father does not abandon his son because the son is deaf or blind and can neither hear nor see him. On the contrary, he involves himself even more in his care. Good spirits do the same for us. If they are unable to physically transmit their thoughts to us, they help us with their inspirations. We also need to be very careful with that. Inspirations may come, and it's up to every individual to identify if the inspiration is positive or not. As ever, we have to project what the Spirit is telling us, project the consequences of the message we are receiving. We have to project the consequences of the inspirations we are receiving. Well, I think I'm having enough clues now that I need to stop my exercise, my mediumship exercise. I think that's not for me. Is this kind of intuition coming from a good spirit or a bad spirit? And that's just a small example. What time is it? Okay. Changes in handwriting. A very common phenomenon among writing mediums is the change in handwriting according to the spirits who communicate. The most notable example is that the same handwriting always repeats itself with the same spirits, often appearing identical to the handwriting it displays during its lifetime. I think Munir will be able to help me here. Munir, was Chico who was getting a message, and this message was used against a process in the court of law after one of those professionals were able to recognize the signature of the spirit? Was him?
Yes, it was him. Yeah. It was a case, there's two kids, one of them, was killed by a firearm. And then the other guy was accused of having killed himself, intentionally. But then they received the letter and, analyzing the letter, and it went through checking the signature and the handwriting, everything. They realized it was actually the handwriting and the signature of the guy who had been killed. And that was an accident. He told his friend it wasn't his fault, and he was, actually, they dropped the charges against him of in doing it intentionally.
And this is something no one can pretend, right? I cannot pretend to sign like Munir signed. I may even see a Munir signature, try to make a copy, but won't be perfect. And people will know it's not Munir.
They did all the forensic examination that you would normally do, for the living, as it were. And in the end, they concluded he was, the guy who had died.
Yeah, that was amazing event. We shall later observe the consequence that can arise from this fact when we address identification. Such changes only occur with mechanical or semi-mechanical mediums, since their hand movement is involuntary, unguided by the spirit. We know mediums that clearly describe that they felt like a hand is above their hand, and then he starts to write. Right. The same does not apply to purely intuitive mediums, because in their case, the spirit only acts upon their thought, and the hand is guided by the medium's own will, as in ordinary writing. But if there are no changes in the style of the writing, even with the mechanical medium, this proves nothing against his or her faculty in and of itself. Such changes are not an absolute condition in the manifestation of spirits, but results from a special aptitude with which the most purely mechanical mediums are not always gifted. We designate those who possess the gift as a polygraphic medium. This next chapter is very interesting. Yeah, we have time, so we will start it. The loss and suspension of mediumship. So we have two scenarios where the mediunity can be lost for good and its suspension. Let's see what Kardec has to say about that. The mediumistic faculty is subject to interruptions and temporary suspensions, both for physical manifestations and written ones. Following is the response of the spirits to a few questions on the matter. Can mediums lose their faculty? This frequently happens, whatever may be the type of faculty. But it is nearly always nothing more than a temporary interruption that ceases with the cause that has produced it. Would the exhaustion of fluid be the cause of the loss of mediumship? Whatever medium's ability may be, they have no ability whatsoever without the sympathetic cooperation of spirits. So mediums that think they have superpower, they have nothing, right? Because mediumship only exists when we have spirits willing to cooperate with us. Whenever they do not receive anything, it is not always because the lack of faculty, but frequently because the spirits do not want or are even unable to use them. And this word here, enable, we need to talk a bit about that, because mediumship is between perispirit to perispirit. Sorry, the mediumship communication is between perispirit and perispirit. And as such, is a combination of the fluids of the medium and the spirit. If for any reason they cannot find a way to connect, the communication will not take place. What causes spirits to abandon mediumship? Sorry, what causes spirits to abandon mediums? The way in which they use their mediumship is what most influence good spirits. I will highlight that because that's very important. We all want to have good spirits around us. But the only way to do it is to have the proper utilization of their mediumship, to know what they do properly. Hi, Denise.
How for that it to be first our conduct, our faults,
and then the mediumship will stop because how you are acting, or maybe
Yeah,
just that it's a good mediumship, not the bad one, because the bad one, if you have a bad conduct, you can receive whatever. Sorry, yeah, I just.
yeah. No, yeah. It depends.
Mm.
There are cases and cases, right? The suspension of mediumship is one thing, right? We'll have an intervention that will block, if I can say like that, your mediumistic channels. Not having a communication is a different thing, right? That could be because of your behavior, your choices, what you decide to do. The spirits don't want to get close to you. And then you still possesses the ability, but they will not be around you. And the risk of doing that is that good spirits may decide not to be around you, but the bad ones, they will have fun, you know? So that's the main risk.
Okay, thank you.
We may abandon them when they use it on futilities and for ambitious purpose. Well, futilities, yeah, they have no time to waste, period, right? For ambitious purpose, you may not even feel that we have that, because it can be very subtle. It can be very, I think subtle is the right word, because sometimes I want to do something with my mediumship to help humanity. But in reality, I want to be on the TV news, publicizing my face, my work, my book, my lecture, whatever. And that is a possibility. Hi, Rafael.
Hi, Guilherme. I just want to, if that's okay, I just want to give you an example of something that happened in Brazil in the 80s and 90s. We had a really good medium, and he became super famous. He was receiving Dr. Fritz for spiritual surgeries, and he began charging for the work. Dr. Fritz told him he should never keep charging. He began charging. And he was getting literally thousands of people at the beginning, making so much money. It was a considerable amount of money, literally thousands and thousands every weekend. And what happened was that the spirit stopped working with him, and and everyone left, and other spirits tried to take on and do the work in a different way, but it still didn't work. And it became a very public case, because this guy was making miracles, was healing people beautifully before he began charging excessively. And this is one example when good spirits walk away, because the practice suddenly becomes it became a business for the medium rather than charity purposes work solemnly.
Working a bit with the spirits, they are all very clear. Mediumship cannot have any financial implication, any financial implication, period. If you do so, you are on your own. As Rafaela said, the pranksters will try to take over. And the worst is, you will not even notice until it's too late. So remember that I was telling that those kind of things are very subtle? Yes, they are. Because it will start with our pride and a few other things we all possess. And the results are not positive. So guys, we are coming to the end of our meeting today. our study today. So I'll ask Munir, can you do our final prayer for us, Munir, please?
Yeah. Let's close our eyes then, joining our thoughts, our hearts, and raising them up to the benefactors as a sign of gratitude for their inspiration, for their guidance in the study, and also for the opportunity that each one of us is having of understanding better the faculties that, to different degrees, all of us possess. May we use it for the benefit of ourselves and others in spiritual terms, to bring Jesus' teachings to the world, and also to improve ourselves as his instruments. So we send out love to all those who are part of this group and couldn't join us today, extending to their family, their workplace, and also extending to the whole planet. May each one of us, wherever we find ourselves, be the instrument of the Almighty Father and our beloved elderly brother, our dear Master Jesus. So be it.
Thank you, Munir. Before I let you go, I would like to encourage everyone that's in the room to participate on the study, right? That help us all. So I wish you all a very nice weekend. Bye-bye.
You all, bye-bye.